ladies and gentlemen, once again, as always, Miguel Magallon! And as always, President, Founder, CEO of Magallon Entertainment! Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the podcast. Welcome back this evening. So, no music again, straight to the point. I got a lot of phone calls to make. I got clients I got to, email. I got a lot of people I got to talk to tonight. It's going to be a long, busy week, but I wanted to give you guys my initial reaction to the FOMC meeting, to what Jay Powell had to say today, and what went on with interest rates today, and the reaction by the stock market, the reaction by professional, money managers and money investors, capital allocators, by the hedge funds, the pension funds, the mutual funds, and what the big money is doing about it. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, as always, when I'm about to teach you some shit, when I'm about to educate you on shit, and when I'm about to drop some knowledge in this bitch, you already know what time it is on the podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, get the pen in the pad, get the pen in the pads, get the pens and the motherfucking pads, and let's begin talking about it. So, I'm recording this clip literally 1 p.m. in the 1 p.m. in the afternoon. I literally just got done listening to Jay Powell speak. I'm actually recording this podcast right now while I'm watching the actions in the market and what's going on in the marketplace and how the market's reacting to this. But here are my initial reactions, and I'm probably gonna come out with a second clip tomorrow night. And tomorrow night's clip, I'm probably going to break down every single thing Jay Powell said, brick by brick, piece by piece, layer by layer. And I'm going to do a full analysis, full forensic examination, full breakdown, piece by piece, tomorrow night on the podcast. And that's going to be for a lot of you guys who are trying to understand economics, for a lot of you guys who are economists, and for a lot of you guys who are just just really focused and understand, what's going on with monetary and fiscal policy. So for a lot of you smart people who listen to this podcast all the time, you're probably going to enjoy tomorrow night's clip more than this one here. This one, again, is just going to be a brief, quick overview on what my initial reaction was to Jay Powell's speech just now. And for those of you guys who haven't done so yet, I would strongly, highly, highly recommend that you guys listen to last night's podcast. I think I sent it out 2 days ago, which was, my predictions on interest rates this week and what's going to happen with interest rates this week and what my predictions were for the FOMC meeting this week. If you guys haven't had a chance to listen to that one yet, I would go ahead and pause this clip and listen to that one first, because 99% of what I said on the clip earlier this week pretty much happened today. So, it's not really a surprise to anyone. But anyways, so listen to that podcast clip first, and then go ahead and roll into this one. So let's get into it, ladies and gentlemen. So Jay Powell comes out. He raises interest rates, 25 basis points, yada, 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 et cetera, et cetera. Everyone already knew this. And I think what everyone wanted to know, or what everyone was interested in the most, was going to be his speech, his demeanors, his answers to the Q&A, and his forward guidance. Because really the only thing investors care about at this point, and, economists and, money managers, and the list goes on, is when the Fed is going to pause and when the Fed is going to pivot. Because that's the only thing that, really matters, at this point, is, again, when is the Fed going to pause and when is the Fed going to pivot? Because they just keep raising interest rates and interest rates and interest rates. And, I think this just continues to piss off a lot of economists. And I want to give a quick shout out real quick. And I know she doesn't listen to this, but I want to give a shout out to a senator by the name of Elizabeth Warren. Because Elizabeth Warren came on TV earlier today, about 20-30 minutes before Jay Powell walked on stage. And I think she did this strategically because she knew that if she got on TV on a financial news station like CNBC, and if she started talking about what the Fed is missing and what the Fed is doing wrong and how they're going to send this economy into a recession, she knew that the perfect time to talk about this, or at least, give her opinion about this, would be 20 to 30 minutes right before Jay Powell goes on stage to speak, because that's going to be a time when all of the market participants, all of the investors, and most Americans are already like locked in, to their TV screens waiting to see what Jay Powell's going to say during his speech. So for her to come on live TV just like literally 15, 20 minutes before Jay Powell starts his speech and gives her soliloquy on what she thinks is happening in the economy, how Jay Powell is going to destroy a lot of families, particularly in the middle class bracket, and how a lot of people are going to end up being forced to sell their homes or forced to liquidate their Roth IRAs, their 401ks, how a lot of people are going to see their finances, dissipate, and how there's going to be a lot of destruction in this economy, particularly in the labor market, if the Federal Reserve continues to raise interest rates. And she really gave an amazing speech. I think it was fantastic. I actually loved everything Elizabeth Warren had to say today. I think she was dead on, spot on multiple key issues. So I'm probably going to talk about Elizabeth Warren probably again next week. I already made a clip about a month ago when Jay Powell had to go to a congressional hearing or some kind of like financial committee. I forgot what it was, but he had to go to Capitol Hill, and Jay Powell had to answer to, all the politicians. And he basically had to defend himself on Capitol Hill and talk about why it was necessary to keep doing these interest rate increases, what's going on with the war on inflation, what the Fed's expectations are for inflation, what their prediction for the economy is, what's going to happen with GDP, what's going on with nominal growth. You know what I mean? Like, there was a lot of people who really wanted to grind him on Capitol Hill because there's a lot of politicians that think he's making a policy mistake, that think this is just another, policy error, just like his mentor Volcker did in the 70s. And there's a lot of there's a lot of politicians on Capitol Hill that just completely disagree with what the Federal Reserve is doing and what their path is to killing inflation and how they're going about this war against inflation. But then there's also a lot of other, people on Capitol Hill that strongly support Jay Powell and believe that he's doing the right thing, because at the end of the day, he's trying to kill inflation with the only weapon he has, which is higher and higher interest rates. So there's a lot of people in both Congress and Senate, the left and the right, Republicans, Democrats, just a lot of politicians on Capitol Hill that both agree with him and disagree with him. And so Jay Powell had to go up to Capitol Hill, like I said, I think it was like 2-3 months ago now. And, as you can imagine, Elizabeth Warren and AOC and Bernie Sanders and the crew, they was ready for that ass. When Jay Powell had to go to Capitol Hill, a couple weeks back, they were ready for him. And you know what I mean? They really tried their best to give it to him. And you know what? To be honest, I think, I think they punched him in the face quite a few times. But I think Jay Powell stood his ground. He's kind of like one of those UFC boxing legends where, like, yeah, you're probably going to get a few hits in, but it's not about who gets hit first. It's about who's left standing in the ring at the end of the 12th round. And Jay Powell, you know what I mean? He held strong. Elizabeth Warren, she came in there swinging and she punched his ass in the face. And AOC and Bernie Sanders and the whole crew and all the liberals and everyone else on the left and a lot of Democrats that strongly disagree with what Jay Powell is doing with interest rates and, with all of these rate hikes. Like I said, they really disagree with what he's doing, and they grilled him about it. And, again, they pointed out all of these leading economic indicators that are flashing red, screaming that the U.S. economy is headed straight into a recession, in large part due with, to what the Fed is doing, with all of these interest rates. But Jay Powell stood his ground and said, this is the only weapon we have. This is the only tool we have. And because of that, we're going to fucking use it. Because it's not like you guys are giving me any more options. And, Jay Powell kept his mouth shut. But I think what a lot of Republicans tried to do during those congressional hearings was come to his aid and go to his side and say, hey, you know what? We get it. He is probably raising interest rates too much. But ¿sabes qué? This wouldn't, this job would be a lot easier for him if you guys didn't keep printing more fucking money with all these bullshit ass fucking stimulus checks and infrastructure bill and fucking inflation reduction bill that actually only makes inflation worse in the end. And, Republicans really try to make it political. Let's just call it what it is. And I'm not saying they're right or wrong, but They said, look, yeah, he might be making a mistake with all of these rate increases, but he wouldn't have to raise interest rates as much as he has or as much as he will do if you guys would just stop printing bloody money. And I think that's where the Republicans try to go with this, is say, hey, if we would just stop spending money in the government and, start making all these budget cuts, then his job might be, a bit easier. But you know how that goes is, every time they talk about doing budget cuts, they never want to cut their own budgets. They just want to cut the other party's budgets. So Republicans only want to cut programs that benefit Democrats, and Democrats only want to cut programs that benefit Republicans. So it's kind of one of those things where everyone says they want to be fiscally responsible and the government shouldn't be printing so much money and we need to be more careful with this, budget deficit ceiling and all this other bullshit. But at the end of the day, they don't want to cut their own spending. They just want to cut other people's spending. So the left is always trying to cut money from the right, and the right's always trying to cut money from the left. You know what I mean? And then eventually they just don't agree with it. So they just both end up spending more money anyways. So it never really matters in the end. You know what I mean? And so anyways, I think that's something that Jay Powell tries to not get into, and he tries to stay away from. Because I would probably bet the bank that Jay Powell would say in private meetings that there is a lot of money being spent by the government. And I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm not saying the infrastructure bill is stupid. I'm not saying that, building more government programs or providing more government jobs is a bad thing. You know what I mean? But at the same time, he needs the unemployment rate to go higher, and he needs demand to go lower, and he needs people to stop spending, because there's just not enough supply in this market, whether when it comes to real estate or when it comes to supply chains. There's just not enough inventory. There's just not enough supply. There's just not enough of anything. And you have all these fucking Americans here, and when there's limited supply of things, or there's a scarcity of some kind of product or service, and you have all of these people that have money to, pay for this product and services, you know what I mean? Eventually it just becomes a supply-demand issue. And demand is still really, really high, but supply is really, really low. And so the Fed's job is basically to kill demand, which is, i.e., kill the consumer. The problem is the only consumer that's getting killed is the middle class and below. Because rich people, what do I always say on this podcast, America? Rich people gonna be alright. It's just middle class and below that's just getting destroyed, annihilated, and murdered on a daily basis in this economy now. Month over month over month over month. And I get it. Sometimes it's hard to see it that way, especially when you go out in town and the movie theater's packed and the malls are packed and the clubs are packed and this is packed. And you know what I mean? In certain sectors, you don't really see demand seeing a pullback. But I would remind you, the only reason demand is as high as it is now, or as high as it was at the end of last year, it's the same thing we've always said. Credit card, credit card, credit card, credit card. And I think low-income Americans, poor people, right, and even lower middle class, they just continue to max out lines of credit, pull out lines of equity. You know what I mean? They're selling all their assets, and they just keep spending money on stupid shit. And they just refuse. You know what I mean? Because it's my life, and I want to live it now. And, it's predominantly with, Gen Zs and millennials, but you fucking see it everywhere. I even see some old people that don't really have money like that, but they still want to go out like they got it like that. You see it everywhere in this economy. You know what I mean? So it's not just young people with their fucking YOLO bullshit. It's also old people too. You see it everywhere. Middle class and below, they refuse to stop spending money on stupid shit. Because it's my life and I want to live it now. I want to have fun now. I want to party this weekend. I want to go out this summer. I want to have fun. I want to enjoy my life. I want to live it to the fullest. And again, I'm not saying you should stay home and just be poor forever, but fuck. Again, most Americans have less than $300 in savings, and they're over here talking about what they're going to do this summer. Bro, how about go to work and save your fucking money, fix your stank-ass credit score, and save up money for a down payment on the house. Stop spending money on motherfucking stupid shit. I just don't understand why it's so hard for the average American. I mean, fuck, man. Bitch ass millennials just refuse to fucking listen. Just is what it is, So, anyways, though, so demand is still really high. Supply is very low. Supply is very limited. And, when Jay Powell went up to Capitol Hill, again, 2-3 months ago, going back to Elizabeth Warren and, you know what I mean, AOC and Bernie and the crew, they're yelling at him because they're like, you need to stop raising interest rates because you're just going to keep killing the middle class, killing poor people, da-da-da-da-da. And you know what I mean? And you're just going to just walk this economy into a recession. But on the other side of the equation, what do we always say on the podcast? Inflation is still too motherfucking high, particularly core inflation. Now, I get it. Macro inflation has been coming down for a few months now, but core inflation, and Jay Powell said it again today, core inflation is still basically where it was last year. Rent prices are not coming down. Gas prices are actually starting to tick up again. Like, core inflation is still really high. I don't know about you guys, but I haven't seen any like landlords, you know what I mean, or homeowners that are like just renting out their properties. I haven't seen anyone talking about lowering rent prices by $200 or $300. I haven't seen anyone start to talk about meaningful rent reductions. Like rent prices are still high, and in some big metropolitan markets, rent prices are still going high. They ain't seen no fucking pullback. Ain't no dip there. So, like, are they going up as much as they used to? No. But they're still really fucking high. And again, I think that's why you see so many Gen Zs and millennials still living at their fucking mama's house. This is why you see so many Gen Zs and millennials living with fucking 10, 20, 30, 40 roommates. Yeah, I'm talking to all of you guys in Chicago. I'm talking to all of you subscribers in New York. I'm talking to you all subscribers in Los Angeles, LA tonight. All of you guys who live in San Bernardino, the San Fernando Valley, Oakland, San Fran, San Diego, Riverside, Oceanside, fucking the OC. All of you guys living in California. That fucking disgusting, dirty ass, filthy, just atrocious fucking excuse of a state. Yeah, good job, Governor Newsom. Now he wants to run for president. Get the fuck out of here. And by the way, I wouldn't be surprised if he gets it. I honestly wouldn't. The way the world is today, and the amount of fucking unions who support Newsom's bitch ass, I would not be surprised if Newsom became president one day. I wouldn't be surprised. Would I be pissed the fuck off? Yes. Would I be angry? Yes. Would I be confused as fuck? Yes. But I wouldn't be surprised. I'd sit there and be like, go figure. You know, so we'll see what happens with Newsom and his, campaign for presidency and all this other bullshit. But, the point is, rent prices in California are still way too high. Rent prices across the country are still too high. I don't see any landlords in America talking about reducing rent prices $200 or $300. Fuck no. If anything, they're still raising rent $200, $300. Well, maybe not that much. But the point is, I don't see any massive reduction in rent prices. Gas prices are ticking up again. And just overall inflation and core inflation, right? It's still really fucking high. And so that's where Jay Powell comes in and says, like, look, I acknowledge that all of these leading indicators are flashing red, screaming red. And literally, I cannot stress this more clearly. America, ladies and gentlemen, listen to me. Please listen to this statement, because this is the most important statement I'm going to make on the podcast this evening. So I need you to listen to me very clearly and very thoroughly. Ladies and gentlemen, every leading economic indicator in American history that has ever been fucking made is flashing red, begging for mercy, and screaming that a motherfucking recession is imminent in this country. Every leading economic indicator in history is saying this. Now again, my opinion, just to make sure that we're on the same page here, America, my opinion remains the same. I think poor people started their recession in the first 6 months of last year, and that's why Robinhood and Coinbase and all these other like small crypto exchanges, Voyager, yeah, great job guys, bankruptcy, wow, what a fucking shocker. But the point is, from Voyager to Coinbase to Robinhood to Gemini, you list it, everyone's saying that all the small accounts are no longer making deposits and everyone's just withdrawing all their money out. And they ask them, why is everyone withdrawing their money out? I thought Shibu's the future. I thought Dogecoin was going to the moon. I thought Bitcoin was going to 1 million forever. Like, what happened? Did they stop believing? Did they stop caring? Why did the people stop investing? And the CEO of Robinhood and the CEO of Coinbase and a lot of these economic surveys all basically said the same thing. that because inflation is so high and that child tax credit money went away and that boosted stimulus went away and all that free money went away, and because everything's really expensive right now, people had to stop making deposits, and now they had to start to liquidate their portfolios because they needed that money more than ever just to pay for groceries, just to pay for their bills, just to pay their rent on time. And so I think for most poor people in this country, they probably began their recession at the start of last year. And then towards the end of last year, the only way they were able to survive was to either move back home in their parents' house, or start fucking living with a bunch of, dirty, filthy roommates, or leased, credit card. And I think for most poor people in this country, that's how they're basically surviving. Because most of these surveys are showing us that millennials and Gen Zs are basically all going back home to live at their parents' house, or they're starting to live with more and more roommates, or they're basically maxing out every line of credit that they have in their life right now. So I think poor people have already been in a recession. I think poor people are already experiencing a recession, and I think poor people are already just living in one. And I think one of the things that poor people will tell me the most is, damn, General, it's hard out here. Even if I live with my parents, even if I live with my mom and dad, even if I live with my fucking aunt and uncle, my tia, my tío, my titiritia, my titiritio, my abuelita, it don't matter who I live with, bro. Even if I have 20, 30 roommates, it's still not enough. And I'm like, how? What do you spend all your money on, bro? I thought you're working right now. And guess what every poor person in America tells me? Oh, General, that's the thing. I'm just part-time right now. They're only giving me like 15, 20 hours at work. And I'm there like, damn, bro, you only working 15, 20 hours a week? Damn, what kind of shit is this? And they're like, I know, General. It's because nobody's hiring full-time right now, General. Everything's fucking part-time. And then nothing really pays that much, General. Everything's like fucking 15 an hour, 16. Some shit be on that bullshit 12 an hour. Like, bro, I need like 20, 25 just to survive right now. I need to be making more like 30 an hour, General. And I'm over here like, well, I understand what you're saying. It's really hard to survive on 15 an hour. But bro, how the fuck you over here trying to ask for 30 an hour and all you have is a GED? You don't even have a high school diploma, let alone a fucking associate's degree, let alone a bachelor's degree, let alone a master's degree, let alone a PhD. I mean, damn, bro, you got no formal education whatsoever. You got a fucking empty ass resume. Like, bro, you ain't got no advanced education. Hell nah. You ain't got nothing, but you over here asking for 30 an hour. Get the fuck out of here. So I get it, America. A lot of you guys, who listen to this podcast every evening, nothing but love and support and loyalty. I get it. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. But stop telling me you guys deserve 30, 40 an hour and you have no education, you have no licenses, you have no certifications, you have no formal skill set, you have no formal education, no advanced education, no advanced degree, nothing. It's just fucking, you know what I mean? Just like, you have nothing on your resume. You have nothing to offer an employer or a business owner. It's just fucking you, yourself, and I kind of bullshit. And you're over here asking for 25, 30 an hour. So I get it. It's frustrating when like you can only qualify for like 15, barely 20 an hour. But at the same time, like, why should someone pay you 30, 40, 50 an hour? Why should someone pay you that much? Right? Again, if you don't have an advanced education, you don't have an advanced degree, you have no licenses, no certificates, like you ain't got shit, why should someone pay you that much? You're a dime a dozen, my boy. Not even, you're like a penny a dozen at this point. I mean, there's a lot of people out there looking for work. So trust me, when you ain't got shit but a high school degree or a high school diploma, like, you're not really worth shit in the open market, right? I'm just being real with you. And then you have all these college students in America getting all these fucking worthless degrees in like fucking music and art. Like, that's going to take them somewhere. And you know what I mean? I'm not here to fucking, smash a college degree. Again, I was a university professor, but at the same time, trust me, as a former college professor, I'll tell you, there's a lot of college students that they don't make it to the end. The college dropout rate in this country is over 70%. And then out of the ones that do graduate, not all of them get a degree in something that's useful. There's still too many college students getting stupid ass degrees that don't even mean nothing in the real world. I'm just being real with you. You know what I mean? And then on top of that, you have all these students pulling out fucking tons of student loan debt out the ass because they think that they're going to make enough to pay it all off in the future. That's not always true, is it? So now I have a lot of like subscribers and a lot of VIPs and even some of, some of the clients of mine. I know people that have 2, 3, 400,000 in student loan debt and all they have is a bachelor's degree. Like, what the fuck? So again, don't just put the degree on the pedestal and think it's okay to pull out unlimited student loans, in the name of, pursuing that degree. Because it might not, might not work out in the end. You might not make enough to pay back that loan. You know what I mean? And that's why I think so many people are, begging Congress and Biden and, asking the Supreme Court for student loan forgiveness because they made really bad, irresponsible, stupid loan mistakes when they were younger. And now they want to be forgiven for it when they were now that they're older because they realize that they're never going to make enough money to pay it all back. And now they just feel like they're going to live an entire life in debt. And again, I'm not saying this is fair or not fair. I'm not here to tell you the world should be or any of that bullshit. I'm here to tell you the way the world motherfucking is. So, anyways, though, yeah. So these are just some of the things, that we're paying attention to. And again, I think the broader U.S. economy is still strong, but I think that's just because the upper middle class and the rich are still spending more money than ever before. The only ones who are in a recession right now, in my opinion, is the lower middle class and below. And it's mostly just poor people. And the reason you're still seeing poor people spend money is because they're trying to figure out different ways to have excess savings. And the way they're doing it is they're saving money by no longer renting a home or no longer living in an apartment. More millennials are moving back home more than ever before. Again, I've never seen this many people in their fucking 30s still living with their fucking parents. You got to be kidding me. Back in my day, it used to be embarrassing if you were still living with mom and dad and you were like past the age of 21. Like back in the day, that used to be embarrassing. Now it's just like cool. You know what I mean? Like people just don't give a fuck. So you have a lot of Gen Zs and millennials all still living at home with their parents. If they're not living at home with their parents, they're living with fucking 10, 15, 20, 30 roommates. Again, speaking to all of you listening to me tonight in San Francisco, LA, Chicago, New York, the list goes on. San Bernardino, San Fernando, you guys know where you live. And there's, a lot of people you guys know who live with like a bunch of fucking roommates everywhere. I think it's disgusting, but it is what it is. And again, the main reason people do this is so they can save money. The problem is they're not actually saving money. The money that they should be saving to either fix their credit or, build a down payment, for a home, they're just using that money and spending it on bullshit. Going to the club, going out drinking, going to the party, going here, going there. And guess what? They're probably going to do the same thing all summer. So yeah, people are finding ways to be able to spend more money on bullshit. And that's how they're doing it. They're just, living with more and more roommates. They're moving back home with mom and dad. Or again, they're maxing out credit card. And I know some of you listening to this are going to be like, that's dumb, General. That's just going to put them in debt for the rest of their life. Yeah. But do they really care? Look at most of the people in your life who are drowning in credit card debt. Guess what they're going to do this summer? Put more money on credit card debt. Why? Because it's my life and I want to live it now. It's like, all right. But then they want to be all sad and depressed when they're 30, 40, 50, 60 years old, still working paycheck to paycheck, talking about it's not fair. God doesn't love me. Why doesn't anyone ever help me? And it's like, bro, how can anyone help you when you won't even help yourself? What the fuck? You know what I mean? Like, come on, bro. Like, and again, you know what I mean? I hate to make this religious, but if you guys know me, you guys know I'm a religious man. And I feel like when God puts people in your life, he puts them there for a reason. You know what I mean? And I feel like if you guys are listening to me tonight, 30 minutes into this clip, it's for a fucking reason, right? Again, some of you will tell me to fuck off and you don't care about investing. You don't care about long-term assets. You don't care about accumulating your wealth. You don't care about building your wealth. You don't care about escaping financial slavery. That's fine. What do I always say? I'm always going to need someone to pick up my trash on Friday mornings. But for the rest of you guys who are tired of working paycheck to paycheck, tired of the bullshit, tired of the struggle, tired of the stress, the drama, and all the other fucking bullshit, if you're ready to start stacking assets, you're ready for long-term commitments, you're ready to start, focusing on your future and trying to retire early so you don't have to work until the day you die, hands on your fucking knees every day of your life. If you're ready for that shit, keep listening to the podcast because I'll fucking take you there. But I can't take you anywhere if you won't even take my fucking hand, bro. Just is what it is. So again, if you're listening to me tonight, I believe it's because God put me in here in your life for a fucking reason. It's your choice or not if you're going to take my hand or not. So anyways, so I think that's kind of what's going on with the broader consumer. And unfortunately, the higher end consumer, the Beamer, Benz, or Bentley, the Bugattis, the Ferraris, the Lamborghinis, the fucking Steve Will Do It, or, you know what I mean, Andrew Tates of the world, the Drake, the Rick Ross, the 2 Chainz, the fucking Beyonce and Jay-Z, the fucking Cardi B's of the world. You think they're going to stop spending money anytime soon? Fuck no. They stay spending money. You know what I mean? All these motherfuckers. Drake, fucking Snoop Dogg, Eminem, 50 Cent still in the club with his old busted ass. J-Lo still twerking in the club. Shakira's looking for a new man now because that busted ass loser left her ass. Like, you know what I mean? These people out here, Bad Bunny, bad. You know what I mean? You think they're really going to stop partying this summer? You really think they're going to stay home this summer? You really don't think they're going to be traveling the world, popping bottles, sucking on titties this summer? Hell yeah! So I think that's the problem for the Fed, is like the Fed needs to lower demand because supply is just not enough. And that's what's causing prices to go higher and higher and higher, because at the end of the day, it's just business. This is supply demand issue. And so how is the Fed going to kill demand? He needs to kill more jobs. He needs to raise more interest rates, and he needs to keep them higher for longer. Unfortunately, and this is what Elizabeth Warren was talking about earlier today, is the only people that are getting impacted are poor people and middle class, because rich people just don't give a fuck. And she's right. You know? And I get it. She's always talking shit about the millionaires and the billionaires, and they need to pay higher taxes, and it's all their fault what's going on in the economy, and money is the root of all evil, and it's all fucking Trump's fault, and Elon Musk is evil, and you know what I mean? But notice she don't ever say anything about Warren Buffett and Bill Gates, because you know they support the Democratic Party. They be giving these bitches donations on the side. She'll never say nothing about Warren Buffett and Bill Gates. But no, Jeff Bezos an idiot, Elon Musk is evil. She picks and chooses which billionaire she wants to talk shit about. But the point is, she's basically saying like, look, I know a lot of billionaires in this country. Most of them don't like me. Guess what? I don't give a fuck. But let me tell you, when I speak to these billionaires that don't like me and don't care about me, when we have, discussions together, I can tell you, they're still driving Rolls Royces. They're still buying Lamborghinis. They still got the Bugatti. They still got the private helicopter, the private jet, the private island, over there next to Epstein's ass. But you guys get the point. It's like they're still out there spending fucking money. Rick Ross just said he bought another $10 million worth of real estate. That fat ass is still spending money. He don't even make music no more. All he does is get on the song and go, oh. And DJ Khaled's fat ass, we the best. I'm like, bro, shut the fuck up and sit down somewhere. But these bitches keep getting paid. Now G-Unit's out here talking about we're going to do a reunion tour. Bitch, G-Unit, don't nobody give a fuck about you guys no more. But these people in G-Unit, you gotta be kidding me. This is like fucking 20 years ago. They're still making money. You really think billionaires are suffering? You think billionaires are struggling? You think these millionaires like fucking the Blueface Killer, Squishy Face Retard, Tekashi 6ix9ine, all these motherfuckers, you think they're poor? You think they're struggling? You think their life is stressful? Fuck no. They're still making millions on stupid shit, which is really what fucking kills me. I don't know how they make this much money, but they do. Then you got all these TikTokers and influencers and YouTube stars and all these fucking social media pendejos out here, like, you know what I mean, with their stupid ass videos. They're all still making money. They're all still getting paid. They all still drive Lamborghinis. And this is what frustrates people in Congress, particularly the blue side, because he's over here talking about demand is too high, we need to keep raising interest rates. And they're looking at him like, bro, you're not fixing issues. You're just making things worse for the middle class and below. Poor people are struggling. Because when poor people go into the workforce, all they see is minimum wage, part-time bullshit. And then Jay Powell says, yeah, well, I wouldn't need to raise interest rates like this if they would just stop spending money on stupid shit. They complain, all these Gen Zs and millennials complain about how their life is so hard and inflation this, inflation that. And, I had to live with roommates now and I had to move back in my mama's house. But yeah, when you did that, you still didn't save any money. The money you would have been saving to fix your stank-ass credit score and put a down payment on the house, you just kept spending it on stupid shit. Because it's my life and I want to live it now. And that's where Jay Powell's like, bro, guys, America, listen to me. Escúchame. I cannot stop raising interest rates and killing the economy and slaughtering the consumer and destroying the middle class and below until you get it through your fucking head. Stop spending money on stupid fucking shit. They can't stop. And so I think this is what this press conference was all about. I think Jay Powell comes out today, or he did today, and he said, look, inflation's been coming down. We're going to see what we do this summer. I do think they're going to do a pause this summer, my opinion. And, we hope it keeps coming down, but we're also cognizant of the fact that core inflation is probably still too high. And we don't want to do too much and throw the economy into a recession if we can, if we don't have to. But at the end of the day, if it comes down, to it, if we have to choose between an inflation and a recession, we'll take a recession. And, I think they pressed him about it like 3 or 4 times on today's press conference on the Q&A. And they asked him over and over and over and over again, how come everyone at the Federal Reserve is basically just accepting the fact that there's probably going to be a recession and it's probably going to start this summer? How come everyone at the Federal Reserve doesn't even care that they're forecasting a recession? How come everyone at the Federal Reserve is just complacent with the fact that we're going into a recession? Because again, every leading economic indicator in history is flashing red and screaming that there's going to be a motherfucking recession. Every leading economic indicator is screaming that shit. How come you guys don't get it? What's so hard to understand? You guys are supposed to be the smartest motherfuckers in the building. And the Fed cups back and says, look, we get it. We understand what the LEIs, leading economic indicators, say. But you want to know what else we see? We see inflation that's still too high. We see consumer demand that's still too strong. We see too much, not enough supply on the market. So guess what? Yeah, they might be flashing red. They might be screaming recession, you know what I mean, all day and all morning. But at the end of the day, if inflation is still too high, you know what I mean, especially for people on fixed income. And we talked about this, what was it, Sunday night, Monday night? Again, I made a clip earlier this week talking about, the interest rate, the Federal Reserve is going to raise interest rates this week soon. And I think I said something like the dumbasses at the Federal Reserve are going to raise interest rates again this week. Here's my, opinion about it. And we talked about it on that clip, and I'll say it again tonight. The people who are struggling the most with inflation isn't poor people. It's fixed income people, which is basically like retirees, people who live on Social Security. And you would ask, well, why are they the ones who are struggling the most with inflation out of anyone else? It's easy, because when you live on Social Security, when you live on disability, when you live on fixed income benefits, you only get a certain amount of money per month. And you're not going to make any more money next month. It's going to be the same amount month over month. Versus poor people, especially when you're young, Gen Zs and millennials, if you're not making enough money, you just get another job. If you're not making enough money, you start a side hustle. If you're not making enough money, all you got to do is hustle harder. But for older generations who are just old as fuck now and are living on fixed income, they can't hustle harder. They can't grind more. They can't pick up more, night shifts. They're basically stuck because they're at an age or they're at a place in their life, right? Because of age or disabilities, they can't really participate in the workforce anymore, And by the way, I think one of the things that's really sad to see right now in America is I've never seen this many old people who are on Social Security trying to come back into work and trying to make more money because inflation is killing them right now. And it feels like every time I'm going to Walmart, and I bring this up because I'm going to go to Walmart later on today, I got to get some, I'm not going to say what I'm going to get, but let's say I'm going to be grilling soon. So I'm getting ready for that summertime season. The general loves to throw a backyard barbecue, so I'm going to be grilling this season. And anyway, so I'm gonna go to Walmart later today, pick up some grub so I can, put that shit on the grill. Probably either tonight or next week. But anyways, I love to grill in the summertime. Like that's just something I love to do. But anyways, I'm gonna be going to Walmart later on today, and probably when my son, gets out of school here in a minute. And one of the things that really like saddens me or like depresses me, and me and my wife always talk about this because we always go shopping together. We'll pull up and we'll go to Walmart and we'll go inside, and I feel like I always see a bunch of old people who are just like sitting there struggling, trying to figure out all this new technology, trying to figure out their role in America, trying to figure out their place in America, trying to figure out where they can, work themselves in the workforce. And it feels like every time I'm at Walmart, I see all these people who are like not just 40, 50 years old. I'm talking about 60, 70, 80, 90 years old. You know what I mean? And the manager's just looking at them like, oh, hi, Amy, can we hurry this up? Hi, Sarah. Hi, Bob. You know what I mean? Like, you guys are working kind of slow. Can we pick up the pace here? And it's like you have all these like great grandparents who are like stuck working at like Walmart or Costco, and they're trying their hardest. They're trying their best to like, contribute and participate and, you know what I mean, take part in the workforce, you know what I mean? And again, the only reason they're doing this is because they don't make enough money on Social Security. They don't make enough money on fixed income. They don't make enough money to pay for higher and higher prices. So because of this, they have to go back into the workforce. And guess what? Who are the people who vote the most? It's old people. Young people don't give a fuck. Young people just stay on Facebook and Instagram. Young people are too preoccupied watching fucking TikTok videos all day. Young people don't really vote like that. Old people vote because they're the ones who suffer the most from these economic consequences. Young people don't care. They live at their parents' house. They don't even fucking pay rent anymore. Most young people just Netflix and chill while their mom and dad work and pay all the bills in this motherfucker. Young people don't fucking help their parents out at all financially. Not anymore, right? So if a young person's either living with fucking 10, 20, 30 ass fucking dirty roommates, or they're living at home with their parents or their in-laws and not even helping them with the fucking bills or the grocery bills, right? Let alone, helping them out with any fucking bills, then they don't really care, you know what I mean, if they don't really make that much money every month because they don't really have a lot of responsibilities in life. They just want to stay at home, watch TikTok, Netflix, and chill, and just bullshit and go out every weekend and, have fun this summer and spend all their discretionary income on stupid shit. They don't want to invest. They don't want to, prepare for the future. They don't even think about the future. They're just trying to figure out where the party at, where the bitches at, where the hoes at, where the blunts at, where the drinks at. That's all they care about. You know what I mean? And by the way, it's not just fucking 20-year-olds. It's 30 and 40-year-olds too. That's the only thing they give a fuck about these days. You see it. I see it. We all see it. We all have those people in our life and in our families that they just don't give a fuck about their future. They just want to have fun and live for today, even if it means they're going to work paycheck to paycheck, hands on their knees until the day they fucking die. And that's fine. Again, some people are meant to be poor forever. Not everyone's meant to become a millionaire. The economy only works when the top 5% can chill while the bottom 95% work until they die. That's the only way this economy works. Again, America's not a country. It's a fucking business, and we're in the business of financial slavery. And some people get it and some people don't. That's why people like Andrew Tate always talk about this. It's just a matrix. It's just a math equation. It's just math and common sense. You're either fucking buying assets and investments for the future, or you're spending all your time and money on stupid shit. What are you going to do? So, but again, I can say this until I'm blue in my face. It's not going to change anything. I tell some poor people all the time, stop spending your money on stupid shit and fix your credit score so you can buy a house one day. And then guess what they do that weekend? Spend all their money chasing loose pussy in the club. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you could tell these people over and over again, and they say they listen, but then like 2 weeks later, there they are, back in the fucking club, back in the strip club, trying to have fun with their lives. So, you know what I mean? It's kind of one of those things where like, people will listen, but they won't take it to heart. They won't like change their habits. You know what I mean? It's just like, at the end of the day, they really don't care. They say they care, but they really don't care. You know what I mean? Because I've had this conversation plenty of times with friends and family, and they tell me that they're going to change and start, doing things differently. And then 2 weeks later, there they are on fucking Instagram, like, ooh, having fun, bro, living my life to the fullest. And it's just like, all right, bro, I guess you'll be at work Monday morning. Don't fucking bitch and complain. You know what I mean? Like, it's funny. People always want to complain about going to work, but then they never want to save any money. It's kind of like one of those things. You know what I mean? Like, you could take the horse to the fucking water, but you can't force it to drink it. It's kind of one of those things. Like, I can show you the way out, but it doesn't mean anything if you're not going to follow me. If you want to stay where you're at, then just stay where you're at. But then don't bitch later that, I'm 30 years old and I haven't progressed in life yet. Like, nah, bro. You had an opportunity to follow me over here to this other place that's way better than where you're at now, but you decided to sit down and chill. You know what I mean? Because that's where the bitch is at. So anyways, and so yeah, so I think this is kind of something where Elizabeth Warren hit on today, and I'm going to make a clip about this, more thoroughly in depth next week. But that's kind of like the basic premise of her point. And I think this is something that the Federal Reserve was asked over and over again at today's press conference was, every leading economic indicator in history is flashing red, screaming red, and everyone's talking about recession. And even the people who work at the Federal Reserve are also talking about a recession. But it seems like you guys are just hell-bent on just raising interest rates and doing everything you can to kill inflation, even if it means sending us into a recession. And he's like, look, at the end of the day, we're committed to 2% inflation rate. We're not going to stop. We're going to keep pulling this motherfucking trigger. And even if we do pause, it doesn't mean that the war is over. It doesn't mean that we won't raise interest rates later on again if need to. And I think that's what Jay Powell was trying to say, but I think he really sucked at articulating it, which is basically the idea that they've seen several times throughout history where inflation will come down and then it'll go up again. And then it'll come down and then it'll go up again. And then it'll come down again and then it goes up again. Then it comes down again and then it'll go up again. And so Jay Powell's like, look, we're very cognizant of the fact that just because inflation's been coming down for like 6, 7, 8 months now, doesn't mean it won't go up for the next 6, 7, 8 months now. So we're basically telling you that, okay, things are going good. We're quote unquote winning the war so far. Things are coming down over the last few months. But if things start to tick up again, and if inflation starts to go up again, and demand starts to skyrocket again, oh, best believe we got our fingers on the motherfucking trigger. Best believe I squeeze that clip till the bitch is empty. We're not scared to send us into a recession. We're not scared to destroy this economy. We are not afraid to pull the motherfucking trigger. Because in our opinion, inflation is worse than a recession. Because right now there are too many people, again, especially old people who live on fixed income and happen to be the most common voter in this country. Election season on the way. The most common voter in this country are old people who live on fixed income in this country. And they are getting slaughtered by inflation. And so when they go to the polls next year, whether it's to vote for fucking Biden's old ass or Trump's old ass, both these motherfuckers almost 100 now. When they go to the polls and vote, or for, Governor Newsom's bitch ass, you got to be kidding me. But whatever, America, it's you guys who voted for him. I can't believe he's still governor of California. That's a mystery to me. But whatever, you guys love him, I guess. He's your hero. All right, see how that's going. Great job, California. Anyways. Whoever they vote for, one of the key issues this summer, next, election is one of the biggest key issues, maybe not the biggest key issue, but I think it will be, is going to be the economy, particularly inflation. And there you go. And I think old people are going to tell you inflation is still too high and it's still too hard to survive on, Social Security benefits or VA benefits or fucking, you know what I mean? Like, it's just too hard to live on any kind of government, benefits or subsidies or programs right now. And I know some of you guys are going to say, oh, well, it wasn't intended to be enough to live a good life. It's like, yeah, I get that. But at the same time, for some old people, that's all they have to survive on. So they need to make it enough to have a good life. And so the fact that it's not enough right now is really hurting a lot of older Americans who, again, are the most common voters in this country. And I think you guys need to understand the political side of this because this is really important too. Especially when we talk about Elizabeth Warren next week when it comes to Elizabeth Warren versus Jay Powell part 2. I think she's going to, and she did a great job today, again, like I said, already. But I think these are some of the things that were brought up at today's press conference. So to summarize today's press conference, again, I do think they're going to pause interest rates this summer. I think we're going to get a pause soon. I really, really do. And when we see that pause soon, I think the stock market's going to rally. I think Bitcoin, could possibly skyrocket. We'll see how high it goes. I'm not saying it's going to go to 100,000. Not this year anyways. Not in this fucking economy. You got to be kidding me. But I think you're going to see, a lot of asset prices start to spike higher and go higher, whether it's Bitcoin, crypto, altcoins, even NFTs. You're going to start to see a lot of things start to pick up steam again. And I think what that's going to do is cause inflation to go up again. So with that being said, what do I think is going to happen this summer? I think the Fed's going to pause this summer. I know today it kind of sounded like they'd be open to doing another 25 basis point rate increase. If it was me, I would still do another rate increase. And the reason I think the Fed should continue to do another rate increase and maybe another 2 or 3 more, in my opinion, is because I don't see core inflation coming down again. I just don't. And I know I talk about this all the time on the podcast for at least the last 6-12 months now. I don't see anyone in America seeing lower rent prices. I don't really see gas prices going that much lower. They went lower towards the end of last year, but we talked about this. That's just because the administration was pulling out oil from the SPR, which is the Key Strategic Petroleum Reserve. So, and by the way, again, you're only supposed to use that oil in case of emergency, something like Hurricane Katrina. But the administration's basically been just flooding this market, this entire economy, with a lot of oil that we have in reserves and savings. But now the problem is all that oil that we had in reserves and savings is now down to historically low levels. And now we're getting faced with a situation where if we keep on using all that oil we have in reserves, again, our savings, then we're just going to be like the average American using all our savings. And then when we have none more, what are we going to do? We won't have anything left to use. And so I think that's why countries like the Saudis just keep doing oil cuts and oil cuts and oil cuts, because they know at some point we're going to run out of oil in our savings account and we're going to need to refill that oil supply. Plus, we need more oil just to run the regular economy. And then I think that's why Saudis are doing oil cuts, because they want to raise the prices of oil. So that way, when we eventually inevitably run out of oil in this country, in terms of the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, and we need to refill it up again, who are we going to buy it from? It's not going to be the Russians. It's not going to be the Chinese. It's going to be the Saudis. And we're going to have to go back out there to Saudi Arabia on our hands and fucking knees and beg them for more oil. And it's not just going to be a little bit. It's going to be a lot. And I think that's why they want the oil prices to go higher. So that way, when we eventually have to beg them for more oil, again, good job, Biden, they're just going to fucking rape us with prices. So I think that's inevitable. But in the meantime, in between time, oil prices, gas prices, still a little too high in my opinion. I think they're going to go higher this summer, especially as, again, rich people and upper middle class people keep traveling this summer. And by the way, I think poor people are going to go out and have fun this summer too. Because yeah, I get it. It's just minimum wage and part-time bullshit. But the thing is, young people don't really have a lot of bills and they have a lot of credit cards, because they're saving money on bills by just living at home with their parents and not helping them out with the bills or any of the payments anymore. Or they live with a bunch of fucking, filthy roommates. And so that money that they should be saving, they're going to end up spending and going out this summer instead. And the rest of them are just going to continue to max out credit cards and pull out personal loans. And that's why I say, eventually, the music's going to stop. Eventually, you're not going to qualify for any more fucking loans. Eventually, you're not going to qualify for any more credit card debt. Eventually, all that money's going to go away. And eventually, your parents are going to start asking you to start helping out around the house and helping them pay some bills up in this motherfucker. And then when that starts to happen, when parents say enough is enough, mijo, you've been living here long enough, it's time for you to get your shit together. Mija, I love you, but you got to start to learn to be responsible with your own money. When this shit hits the fan and some of these kids are forced to grow the fuck up, even though some of them are already almost 30 years old, you got to be fucking kidding me. That's embarrassing. But eventually, when you can't fucking just keep living rent free and not fucking paying for anything and just fucking skating through life, eventually when you got to grow the fuck up and be a fucking man, that music's going to stop and that shit's going to hit the fan, and it's going to hit hard as a motherfucker. Because now all these millennials are going to be forced to go out and move out. Get your own place to fucking live. And so, with that being said, I think that eventually is going to happen. I really, really do. Either they're going to be forced to move out and get their own place, or they're going to be forced to help mom and dad with the rent or the mortgage, whatever it is. They're going to be forced to help. They're going to be forced to contribute. They're not going to just be allowed to just keep spending money on stupid shit all summer. Eventually, that shit's going to stop. And so with that being said, again, I think poor people are already in a recession, but I think that's the reason they still have money to spend on stupid shit. Is because they're saving money by doing stuff like that, because it doesn't matter if you live at home with your parents anymore. Like, it's just becoming more and more socially acceptable. Um, I think the middle class is absolutely fucked because most people in the middle class own their own home, or at least they don't live at home with their parents. And they're the ones that, if their jobs get cut back or they lose their job at work or you start to see more and more layoffs, I think it's the middle class that's going to get hit the hardest. Because the only way they can survive is basically pulling more and more money out of their homes, or maxing out their own credit cards, or liquidating their savings, liquidating their portfolios, taking money out their 401ks. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they don't have someone that can just pay all the bills for them, like a Gen Z or a millennial. You know what I mean? Like, some of these older Americans who are more like, middle-aged Americans, late 30s, early 40s, and their 50s. They don't really have that, luxury of, I'll just stay at home in my mom's house and eat Hot Pockets all day. Like, most of them are already married, have kids, they started their own families, they're grown as fuck now. You know what I mean? Like, they're not a little kid anymore. They're middle class American, and they're middle-aged thinkers. They're not little kids. And so I think those are the people who are going to get hurt the most. Those are the ones who are going to get destroyed the most. And I think that's where you're going to see most of the bloodbath and bloodshed in this economy the most. And unfortunately, I think that's what needs to happen. That's what has to happen. Because again, I think the Fed will sacrifice this economy and just put it in the altar in the name of killing inflation, which at the end of the day is mostly just going to help the old people, the poor people, and the fixed income people. And again, I think he has to do everything in his power to help them. So with that being said, still think core inflation is still too high. I think overall inflation is still too high. I understand what the Fed was worried about. They're worried that if they end up doing a pause, that'll cause the stock market to rally. That'll cause, Bitcoin and crypto and altcoins to rally. That's going to cause, investors to start investing in speculative shit. And that's going to cause, consumers to start spending even more money on stupid shit, which all of this inevitably leads to inflation, going up again. And then to bring it back down is going to be a bitch. And so I think that's what the Fed is worried about. I think that's what the Fed is conscious of. And I think that's what the Fed is always, thinking about, is eventually when we stop raising interest rates, what's going to happen to inflation. And I think they already know the answer to this, and I think you do too. The moment they announce a pause, the moment they announce no more, rate increases, the moment they announce that they're going to leave rates as is, that's going to be when the markets pump, and that's going to be when inflation soars again. And then when that happens, they're going to have to go right back at it to pulling the trigger, doing more interest rate hikes, and making sure that they kill inflation once and fucking for all, permanently, below 2%, which to me is still miles and miles away in my opinion. So with that being said, I think we could see a big, rally this summer. I think you can see markets start to go up this summer, and I think you can see demand start to pick up again this summer. Because again, poor people, they just don't give a shit, and rich people aren't feeling shit, and I think middle class are the only ones who are bitching about shit. So with that being said, those are my predictions for the summer. I see a pause happening. I see a pause coming. I see inflation soaring. And then when that happens, I think they're going to finish off this economy in the second half of this year with another interest rate increase. And, we'll see, how this goes. How high can the markets go this summer? I'm not really sure, because I think the higher the markets go, I think the more they're going to get worried that the Fed's going to come after them. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like when a kid sneaks out the house to go party. They don't want to party all night because they know eventually mom and dad might look for them in their room. So they don't want to be away for too long, but they definitely still want to sneak out anyway. So it's kind of one of those things. I think the stock market is a teenager. It's a 16, 17-year-old teenager that knows better, but you know what I mean? All it cares about is having fun. So even though they know they have consequences to their decision, they just don't give a fuck. So I think this summer is going to be like a teenager sneaking out for like 2 or 3 hours to go, hang over at their friend's house. But they're not going to stay out too long because they don't want to get caught. But they still want to get out. You know what I mean? Even if there's consequences to it. So I think it's kind of one of those things. So I think the market's going to go up this summer. I think it's going to try to party this summer. And then eventually the Fed's going to catch their ass. And then they're going to do what? They're going to whoop that ass. And I think we're going to start to see higher interest rates in the second half of this year, because I just don't see inflation coming down anywhere near 2% anytime soon. especially not this year, especially with global supply chain issues, and especially with high-income Americans making more money than ever. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, these are my initial reactions to the Fed's FOMC meeting. I get what they're doing. I get what they're saying. I understand what they're seeing. And ultimately, I fucking get it. Inflation is a motherfucker. And I think they're willing to send us into a recession to pay for this, whether you agree with this or not. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening to this clip this evening. I'll make a more in-depth full clip tomorrow night. Next week, I'll talk about Elizabeth Warren versus Jay Powell Part 2. And then also next week, I'm going to come out with Apple's earnings release as well as Facebook's earnings release, because I think a company like Facebook and a company like Apple, they both see a lot of things, and I think they both understand what's happening in this economy, probably more than the Federal Reserve does, because Apple sells iPhones in every country in the world, and Facebook knows more about your life than even you do, because it sees everything you post and it sees everything your friends post. And I think your friends probably say a lot about you in life. The people who you hang out with and the people you spend the most time with are usually the people who define you in life. So with that being said, I think Facebook knows more about you than you do, and I think Apple knows more about what's going on in every country in the world than anyone does in the world, because they sell iPhones in every country in the world. So last week we talked about Tesla. Last week we talked about Amazon. Next week we're going to talk about Apple. Next week we're going to talk about Facebook. I'll bring up Elizabeth Warren and the Federal Reserve. And tomorrow night I'll give you a more in-depth explanation on what happened at today's FOMC. These are just my initial thoughts and my initial insights and kind of just like my mood this evening. And again, if you guys haven't listened to it yet, I released a clip earlier this week talking about, my broader economic thesis. Go ahead and listen to that clip if you can. Other than that, ladies and gentlemen, that's all I got for you guys. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for believing in me. Thank you guys for riding with me. Thank you guys for, trusting me. Thank you guys for, recommending this podcast, subscribing to the podcast, and being loyal to the podcast. And, Thank you guys for... Thank you guys for all the love, all the support, and all the loyalty. Appreciate it. Other than that, I got about 20, 30 phone calls to make this week. I got a lot of whales and mega whales wondering what the fuck's going to happen in the stock market this week. And I got a lot of VIP soldiers who are on standby trying to figure out what we're going to do with our portfolios this week. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys for listening to the one, the only, the motherfucking general. Have